3 days into leave, the first real stretch of time off you've had in months, your phone rings, and something in the timing tells you not to expect good news. Somewhere across an ocean, a country just lost its connection to the rest of the internet, all at once, and there are only a few dozen people on the planet who actually know how to go fix it. You are one of them, and you already know how the rest of your day is going to go. You'd expect this job to come with more company. It doesn't. Fewer than 20 ships in the entire world are built specifically to repair the cables that carry almost all of the data moving between continents. Not most of it, close to all of it. A lot of those ships are old, some of them years past when they should have been retired. In quieter waters, a handful of standby crews go an entire year on only 2 calls like this one, waiting the rest of the time for a phone to ring exactly the way yours just did. Back aboard, the world you're stepping into comes into focus in pieces. A captain runs the ship. A crew that stretches into the dozens keeps it moving, fed, and repaired when it breaks itself. Your actual repair team is 4 people, you included. Someone on board calls the whole thing a little floating city, and after a few days at sea, it stops sounding like an exaggeration. Weeks with the same handful of faces do something to how close you get to them, whether or not you were looking for that when you signed on. Getting to the fault is not the dramatic part of this job. It rarely is. Clearing the legal right to even enter another country's waters for a repair can take more than a month of paperwork before the ship is allowed near the site at all. Once you arrive, you might sit on station for days before any actual work begins. Nobody pictures a cable repair mission getting slowed down by permits and jurisdiction, but that's usually exactly what it is. Then you reach the site, and the part almost everyone assumes about this job turns out to be wrong. There's no dive gear laid out on this deck. Nobody is going down there. Instead, a grapnel goes over the side, a heavy, multi-pronged hook lowered on a winch, and it drags along the seafloor, sometimes for miles, until it catches the line. Then the ship doesn't send a person down to the cable. It hauls the entire cable up to you. You watch it break the surface, dripping and heavier than it looks, and for a second, the actual scale of the thing lands in your hands. This is the whole physical link between one country and everywhere else, and right now, it's draped across your gloves, on a deck most people who use it have never heard of. The slack matters as much as the catch. Haul too fast, or let the tension sit wrong, and you risk snapping a line you spent hours getting hold of. So the intact end gets sealed, buoyed, and set gently back into the water while the damaged section comes inside to be dealt with properly. Inside the jointing shop, the cable gets clamped down so it physically cannot move. You cut away the damaged section, strip back the armor, and keep stripping until what's left in your hands is a bundle of glass fibers thinner than a strand of hair. Under a microscope, you line up the 2 broken ends and fuse them. The fuse itself is almost nothing. A few seconds of arc, and it's done. The tolerance around it is the entire job. 1/10 of a decibel of signal loss is the line between a joint that passes and one you tear out and start over, and a single particle of dust in the wrong place can undo an attempt you'd spent real time setting up. This time, it takes more than 48 continuous hours in 12-hour shifts before a splice finally passes clean. By the second shift, your hands are still doing precise work, just on less sleep than they'd prefer, and the microscope has no opinion about that. Somewhere around hour 30, you stop noticing how tired you are and start noticing only the fiber directly in front of you. This is the job at its actual size. Not danger the way outsiders picture danger. Stillness, and a fraction of a decibel, decided by hand, under a light, for as long as it takes. It would be easy to file this away as a strange, harmless corner of the shipping world, except the last 2 years haven't let it stay that quiet. Cables running through the Baltic Sea have been damaged repeatedly enough that a dedicated multinational naval patrol was stood up at the start of last year just to watch that stretch of seabed. In the Red Sea, 2 major cables were severed within the same short window, cutting service across a wide stretch of Asia and the Middle East, with the resulting economic disruption estimated afterward in the billions of dollars. Most breaks are still nowhere near that dramatic. Somewhere between 70 and 86% of them, depending on whose count you use, come down to something as ordinary as a trawler's net or a dragged anchor, not sabotage. But the exceptions are becoming less rare, and the fleet meant to answer either kind isn't growing to match it. Something close to half of it, worldwide, is expected to near the end of its working life within about 15 years. None of that changes the joint in front of you tonight. It holds. You re-armor the splice, seal it against the water it's about to spend the next 25 years or so submerged in, and feed it back out over the side. It disappears into the same black water it came out of a day and a half earlier. Somewhere on land, a signal comes back. A video call reconnects mid-sentence for someone who never noticed it had dropped. A payment clears. None of them will ever know your name, or that a person did this by hand, or that it took the better part of 2 straight days under a microscope instead of whatever they might have pictured. You'll get back to that interrupted leave eventually, for a while. This job has never once asked permission before cutting into someone's time off, and it isn't going to start with you. It costs you real hours with people who notice you're gone and say so, plainly, when you get back. You go anyway, because for a day and a half, you were one of a few dozen people on the entire planet standing between a country and the dark. And that mattered more, in the moment, than the vacation did. It will again. Somewhere, right now, another line is stretched a little too tight against a seabed it was never meant to snag on, and eventually, it will. Not every life that keeps something invisible running happens at sea. Some of them happen underground, in the dark, in rooms nobody outside the job ever sees, and Occupation Files goes there next. If this is the first time you've thought about what the internet going down actually means, consider subscribing, and tell us in the comments which invisible job you want to live inside next.